There is a part of you that never truly rests. Even when the world goes quiet and the lights fade, something inside remains awake, watching, listening, waiting. You feel it in the pause before sleep, in the tension behind your eyes, in the thoughts you never speak aloud. You move through crowded rooms, exchange practiced words, perform the version of yourself that society accepts, yet inside there is a pressure that does not dissolve. You sense it now, as you listen. This is not imagination. This is recognition. You live divided. There is the self you present to survive, and the self that stands behind it, arms crossed, silent, restless. Anger you learned to swallow. Fear you learned to rename as reason. Envy you buried beneath politeness. Modern life is full of noise, full of signals, full of constant stimulation, yet it leaves you emotionally undernourished. You are told to stay calm, stay pleasant, stay manageable. No one teaches you how to master what churns beneath. They teach you how to hide it. This inner presence has been called many things, but it has never left you. It appears in flashes of irritation, in sudden impulses, in moments when your reflection feels unfamiliar. Society calls this darkness a flaw, something to be corrected or medicated, something shameful. But it is not sickness. It is not a weakness. It is a force that has simply been ignored. The shadow does not ask permission to exist. It waits. And the waiting is not endless. From an early age, you were taught what to show and what to suppress. Strength was praised only when it was useful, never when it was raw. Aggression was renamed as a problem. Intensity was treated as instability. The deeper currents of human nature were wrapped in moral language and locked away. You learned that to belong, you must soften yourself, dull your edges, lower your voice. And so you did. You survived by shrinking, yet the instincts did not disappear. The capacity for dominance, for violence, for desire, for ambition remained intact beneath the surface. You sensed it, and that is why you feared it. Not because it was evil, but because no one showed you how to hold it. You were told that darkness must be erased, not understood. That fear of yourself became the quiet architect of your behavior. You hesitated when you should have acted. You lashed out when restraint was needed. The shadow, denied form, found its own exits. Repression is not control. It is surrender disguised as virtue. When energy has no discipline, it leaks. It becomes addiction, resentment, self-sabotage. It appears in the choices you regret and the words you cannot take back. The more you avoid the dark, the more power it accumulates. This is the unspoken truth. Darkness does not grow because it is fed. It grows because it is denied. And denial is a fragile strategy. It always fractures under pressure. Miyamoto Musashi did not grow up sheltered from this reality. His world was sharp, unforgiving, and close to death. Violence was not theoretical. It was immediate. As a child, he witnessed bloodshed, instability, and the raw consequences of human conflict. There was no illusion of safety to hide behind. When Musashi entered his first duels, he was not purified or noble. He was driven by survival, by instinct, by something fierce and untamed within him. Each early encounter carved discipline into that raw force. Victory was not granted to the most righteous, but to the most present. Aggression alone was not enough. Impulse led to death. Musashi learned this with his body, not through philosophy. His shadow was never treated as an enemy. It was acknowledged as part of him, something to be shaped. Where others moralized, he refined. Where others panicked, he observed. Over time, repetition replaced chaos. Training replaced impulse. He did not deny his capacity for violence. He disciplined it. This distinction defined his path. The shadow was not judged. It was commanded. Musashi understood, long before modern language existed for it, that power ignored becomes dangerous, but power understood becomes precise. His calm did not come from purity. It came from familiarity with his own darkness, earned through confrontation rather than avoidance. When the shadow remains unseen, it does not remain inactive. It moves behind the scenes, directing behavior in subtle, corrosive ways. Suppressed instincts emerge as sudden rage, quiet addictions, or a constant sense of dissatisfaction. You feel pulled in directions you do not fully understand. You react instead of choosing. This is not fate. This is a lack of integration. Modern men collapse under pressures they cannot name because they were never taught to look inward without flinching. Passive aggression replaces direct action. Anxiety replaces instinct. You become divided against yourself, spending energy on internal conflict rather than movement. The shadow, unacknowledged, becomes the puppeteer. It speaks through habits, through tone, through silence. This is vulnerability in its most dangerous form. Not weakness of body, but ignorance of self. When you do not know your own depths, others can provoke them. Circumstances can manipulate them. The unintegrated shadow reacts blindly, and reaction is always slower than intention. Musashi understood that the unseen opponent is the most lethal. The same is true within you. Until you face what you carry, it will decide for you, and it will not ask whether you are ready. Solitude removes the mask. When the noise recedes and no one is watching, there is no performance left to maintain. This is why solitude is feared. Not because it is empty, but because it is honest. In stillness, the shadow steps forward. Thoughts sharpen. Memories surface. You see patterns you avoided. The mirror becomes clear, and clarity is uncomfortable. To observe yourself without judgment requires courage. Not the loud kind, but the quiet endurance to remain present when escape is available. You will discover impulses you dislike and strengths you underestimated. The fear is not what you might find, but that what you find cannot be denied again. Musashi trained alone for this reason. His solitude was not isolation but confrontation. Each strike, each repetition reflected his inner state. The sword did not lie. In silence, illusions burned away. What remained was usable. What was false fell apart. This is the threshold. Many approach it, few stay. Yet without this encounter, mastery is impossible. You cannot command what you refuse to see. Suppression tightens the grip. Discipline loosens it. This difference defines mastery. To suppress is to push downward with fear. To discipline is to guide with intent. Musashi did not attempt to erase aggression. He contained it. Through form, repetition, and restraint, energy was shaped into something reliable. The sword became an extension of control, not chaos. Aggression, when undirected, exhausts the mind. When disciplined, it sharpens focus. Fear, when denied, paralyzes. When acknowledged, it heightens awareness. Nothing is destroyed. Everything is transformed. This is the quiet alchemy of discipline. Strength emerges not from elimination, but from containment. Like fire within a forge, power gains purpose when boundaries exist. Musashi's calm was not emptiness. It was pressure held without leakage. You are capable of the same containment, but only if you stop treating your inner force as an enemy. Command begins where suppression ends. When the shadow is integrated, it stops shouting. It listens. Aggression refines into focus, a narrow beam instead of a wildfire. Fear sharpens perception instead of scattering it. Pain becomes restraint, teaching timing rather than haste. This is precision, and precision is power. Musashi's calm in combat was not detachment. It was intimacy with chaos. He knew his own reactions so thoroughly that nothing surprised him. Darkness, once a threat, became a tool. Each emotion was available without being overwhelming. You sense this potential within yourself. Moments when everything aligns and action feels effortless. These are glimpses of integration. The shadow does not vanish. It cooperates. When darkness serves clarity, the mind becomes still even in motion. This stillness is not passive. It is lethal in its accuracy. Alignment occurs when nothing inside you pulls against itself. Light and shadow stand on the same side. There is no internal argument, no wasted energy. Confidence no longer needs display. Presence replaces bravado. You move without apology because you are no longer divided. This wholeness creates calm authority, not imposed, but felt. Others sense it without understanding why. It does not demand attention. It commands space naturally. Musashi reached this state through years of discipline, solitude, and honest confrontation. Inner alignment is not perfect. It is coherence. You act as one. When the mind and shadow agree, hesitation dissolves. The noise of society loses its pull. You remain centered, not because the world is quiet, but because you are. The shadow never disappears. It remains alert, as it should. Mastery is not erasure, but vigilance. Each day requires awareness. Temptation is recognized early. Anger is noticed before it spills. Fear is acknowledged before it hardens. This practice creates balance without tension. You walk neither rigid nor careless. Strength becomes sustainable. Musashi lived this way, attentive without anxiety, prepared without aggression. To live with your shadow awake is to live honestly. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is denied. The effort decreases as familiarity grows. What once threatened now informs. You stand balanced, not because you are free of darkness, but because you know its weight. Musashi's true strength was not technique, nor victory, nor reputation. It was self-knowledge. He feared nothing within himself, and so nothing outside could control him. Darkness, acknowledged, became loyal. It is no longer sabotaged. It served. The warrior who fears himself remains fragile, no matter his skill. The warrior who knows himself moves freely, unburdened by internal resistance. This is the dark secret. Mastery is ownership. You do not need to destroy what you carry. You need to know it. In that knowing, something settles. The struggle quiets. What remains is stillness with depth, resolve without noise, and an authority that does not announce itself. This is not motivation. It is recognition. You have always carried the forge within.